Unlike certain other anime that use video games as a vehicle for storytelling, the writers of MMO Junkie clearly have a deep-seated love for MMOs and the culture that surrounds them, or at least an internet connection and a willingness to do a bare minimum amount of research. Reki. When Nico sees Harumi AFK and starts putting cabbages on the ground around her just because, that's one of the realest moments in any game-centric anime. But it isn't getting the details right that makes MMO Junkie special. Log Horizon does that too, and it's not even good enough to get a second season, apparently. What sets MMO Junkie apart from any other game-based anime isn't its ability to shove game mechanics into its plot, but its ability to shove meaning and thematic purpose into its game mechanics. One of MMO Junkie's most important themes is the idea of expressing yourself and choosing your own identity. I made a 20-minute video on the subject, but to sum it up, the basic idea is do that and don't not do that. Video games are a great tool to use for exploring that theme, especially MMOs. In a social environment like that provided by MMORPGs, things like character appearance, gear skins, dyes, and hairstyles all afford the player a mostly unrestricted means of presenting themselves to other people in the way that they want to be seen. It's no coincidence that Lily gives Hayashi a special dye for Christmas at the end of the first episode, when Morioka is still struggling to decide exactly how she wants to present herself online. The dye, of course, being indicative of Morioka's ability and desire to change the way that she looks to other people. We see the same kind of thing with Lilac in episode 4, when she wins the top prize from the loot boxes and dyes it light before switching back to her usual black and dark purple because it's more her. But MMO Junkie's use of game mechanics as a means of exploring identity is best displayed in the first 10 minutes or so of episode 1, from the moment when Morioka first starts creating Hayashi to the end of the fight with the mouse boss thing. This is normally the part where I would show you a series of clips to demonstrate what I mean, but I already went on 2 musical rants in my last MMO Junkie video to explain why I can't do that. So I'll just have to assume you've been good little children and actually watched MMO Junkie before trawling YouTube for analysis videos, right? Good, have a donut. So since you've seen MMO Junkie, you know that we get a relatively long scene of Morioka creating her virtual alter ego / husbando, Hayashi. By having Morioka create her character on screen, the viewer gets a behind-the-scenes look at what aspects of her identity she finds lacking and undesirable, and what aspects she wants to make more prominent in the virtual world. For example, one of Morioka's biggest insecurities is her physical appearance. Near the end of the series, we see this displayed when the cashier at the supermarket makes some innocuous comment about her and Sakura being together, and Morioka interprets that to mean that there's no way a girl like her could be Sakurai's girlfriend, since his hotness is blinding and she's the kind of girl who keeps her mirror covered with a sheet so she doesn't have to look at her own hideous face. This is emphasized by the shot of Morioka that we get while she's creating Hayashi. Her hair's a mess, there are bags under her eyes, and I'm sure it's no coincidence that the camera is placed at an angle that lets us see this mole on her lip. By making Hayashi quote-unquote hot, Morioka is able to relieve herself of a serious source of stress in her life, which is why playing fucking Fruits de Mer is something that she wanted to do in the first place. And side note about that pronunciation, I actually got tweeted at by the ADR director for the MMO Junkie dub, and having the characters pronounce it that way was a conscious choice. Not just, an accident. But comme je me suis spécialisé en français, I still can't abide by that, so we're just gonna compromise and translate the thing into English. Hey! French Bryant!
Oui?
What's Fruits de Mer in English?
Comment?
Fruits de Mer!
Fruits de mer.
Oui!
Oh, it's shellfish.
Selfish?
No, shellfish, like the mussels, the oysters.
Shellfish?
Oui, shellfish.
Alright. Shellfish.
Oui.
Thanks.
Pas de problème. Puis-je présenter votre vidéo prochaine?
Yeah, sure.
Merci.
Back to what we were talking about before, there's a reason she makes it a point to make Hayashi a hot guy character. I talked in my previous video about Morioka's desire for specifically romantic companionship, and in many ways, Hayashi serves as a romantic surrogate for her. He's a man who exhibits a variety of character traits that she finds desirable. He's ambitious and handsome, confident, digital, has a pretty big sword, etc. And most importantly, she can interact with him without leaving the comfort of her own room. Unlike with Sakurai or Koiwai or any number of other potential romantic partners in her life, Morioka doesn't ever have to worry that she's not good enough for Hayashi just because he is a game character. He's someone who can help mitigate her desires without her having to take the risk of not being able to live up to the desires that he has. And both of these functions are reflected in Hayashi's name. On Morioka's desk, we see a notepad with a scribbled out list of potential names for her character, most of which are quote-unquote cool, but she decides to go with Hayashi, which is a fairly normal Japanese name. There are a few things this suggests. First, Hayashi and Morioka are, when they're written out, I don't know much about reading Japanese, but Hayashi means forest, and one of those kanji that Morioka uses to write her name is used in a lot of words that represent woodlands and such, so there's a connection there. Ask Pedro about it, you know what I mean. And second, Hayashi's normal name makes him more approachable and human in Morioka's view. And while I don't really doubt that she'd be able to connect with her character no matter what she decided to name him, I've personally always found it easier to become friends with people named John than with people named XX Darth Laserdisc XX420 Blaze It #FeelTheBurn. But after we move on from character creation is where the real fun with MMO Junkie's metaphors begins. Morioka's main motivation for becoming a NEET is that she wants to start her life over and devote herself to something that makes her happy. When she decides to do this and logs into Shellfish for the first time, the very first thing we see is this bird bopping Hayashi on the head with a scroll. A new quest scroll. While Hayashi is getting his footing and beginning his quest in the world of Shellfish Online, Morioka is embarking on a new quest of her own to adapt to her life as a NEET. But the quest that Hayashi is assigned doesn't exactly go well. He tries and he tries and he tries, but he just can't make that damn rat die. Not on his own, anyway. He always winds up back at the respawn chapel, which I should point out serves as a literal rebirth for Morioka. I mean, not as a literal rebirth. No, get that off the screen. Stop it. Bad. Hayashi tries 3 times to kick that mouse thing's ass by himself, and he just can't do it, which mirrors Morioka's primary struggle as a NEET. She's happy not to have to deal with the stressors of working life, but now she has to deal with the isolation that comes with her new freedom. Hayashi can't overcome the rat by himself, just like Morioka doesn't want to live her life alone. Enter Lily. During the whole rebirthing process, while Hayashi is standing in the pulsing womb of I'm just gonna stop this metaphor right here, he meets Lily in the respawn chapel, and she helps him defeat the Peeps marshmallow rat monster. Lily provides Hayashi with the support that he needs to overcome the boss and win the fight, just like Sakurai and the other members of At Home Party give Morioka the connections that she needs to be truly happy with her new life. The main way that game mechanics play into this is in Shellfish Online's class system. Morioka desires freedom and personal strength, so she makes Hayashi a knight class character, somebody who can rush into a fight and do damage against whatever's standing in his way. But the thing about DPS characters, or maybe he's a tank DPS I think, is that they aren't usually able to excel in MMOs on their own, just like Morioka isn't able to achieve happiness by herself. Lily provides Morioka with the deep interpersonal connection that she wants, helping Morioka ease into her NEET life and become comfortable there, so it's no coincidence that she's some kind of healer instead of a warlock or a paladin or a rogue. She doesn't provide Morioka with emotional DPS or emotional tanking, but emotional support, so she plays a support class. And the appropriateness of each character's class doesn't just apply to Hayashi and Lily, but also to Yuki and even Molly in different ways. While Morioka played a support class in Nanter SG, it doesn't reflect the same aspect of her character as it reflects in Sakurai's in Shellfish. A healer like Yuki has a specific place in a party, doing what she needs to do to make sure that everybody else succeeds. In a way, this is similar to Morioka's working life, where she performed the duties of her job for the sake of her company and her society rather than for herself. Likewise, while she's teaching Koiwai how to play Shellfish, she creates Molly as a support class to reflect her new role as a teacher. Lily's class is also a representation of Sakurai's character. At his core, Sakurai is a sensitive and caring man who wants to support others, hence support class. We see this in the strong familial instincts that I talked about in my last video, as well as his willingness to take immediate responsibility for a stranger's medical needs when he bops her on the head in episode 3. But one important thing to notice about Lily is that she never casts any kind of buff spells on Hayashi. It's always healing. She doesn't fundamentally change anything about Hayashi's abilities. She just gives him the endurance to persevere long enough to overcome what's troubling him with his own power. Likewise, when we see Sakurai supporting Morioka, his focus is always on making her see the strengths that he knows she already has, not in deluding her into thinking that she's something she's not. And of course, you can't talk about MMO Junkie without talking about the series' implicit gender commentary. I mean, I guess you could, since I spent the entire last video doing just that, but I won't this time. Gender identity is one of the hot-button social issues of the day, and MMO Junkie's portrayal of gender performance as an aspect of online gaming and of identity construction is one of the best out there. This is mostly shown through Sakurai and Lily. Sakurai is a very very domestic, mild-mannered person. He wants to have a family, but he lives alone, and there are a few times in the series when he mentions playing MMOs as a means of being alone but not lonely. Lily, as a character, allows Sakurai a vessel through which he can experience a particularly tender and gentle brand of friendship that he really doesn't have with his dude bro friend Koiwai. And considering that we don't have any reason to believe he has other friends IRL, especially not female friends, having that outlet is an important means of both coping with his lonesome life and of expressing aspects of himself that would just get pent up inside him if not for the MMO all-you-can-eat oyster special. But the most important thing about MMO Junkie's portrayal of gender performance is that it isn't important. The only person freaking out about being judged for playing a character of a different gender is Morioka herself, someone who has long-standing issues with confidence and self-esteem regardless. She's surrounded by people who choose to portray themselves differently online, either because that's how they're comfortable in the case of Sakurai or Lilac's friend, or just because for people like Koiwai or Himeralda. In MMO Junkie, the gender of someone's character is arbitrary. It doesn't have any bearing on their sexual orientation or their behavior or even their identity, really. The closest we get to seeing any actual gender-related discrimination or stereotyping in the series is when Kanbei mentions that Lily has to deal with a lot in terms of quote-unquote creeps sometimes, which probably has something to do with why Sakurai is so hesitant and meek when pursuing Morioka. He doesn't want to bother her IRL in the same way that he gets bothered as Lily online. His quote-unquote transgender performance serves as a vehicle for empathy. Koiwai, in comparison, is far more aggressive/confident in his pursuit of Morioka, depending on how you want to look at it, and that's also reflected in the way he interacts with his character in Shellfish Online. Harumi is a self-professed blonde bombshell who was created specifically to be out of place and funny, not as somebody Koiwai could connect with on a personal level, like Sakurai connects with Lily. She's a source of entertainment with no personality of her own, so while Koiwai plays a girl online, just like Sakurai does, we can't really say that he participates in female gender performance in the same way that Sakurai does. Which plays into Koiwai's IRL presentation of himself as a red-blooded heterosexual Casanova type. But the most poignant metaphor when it comes to MMO Junkie is that of two people sharing their accounts. MMO Junkie's main theme is that of the importance of interpersonal connections that are formed through online gaming. And while it makes sure to let us know that those connections are valuable in their own right, regardless of whether or not they ever extend into the physical world, the fact that those connections do extend into the physical world for Morioka is very important for her. In the last episode, when Morioka and Sakurai are hanging out at his place, Morioka briefly gets behind Sakurai's computer screen and she can see the world through Lily's eyes. After spending the entire series more or less devoid of intimate friendship in her physical life, the series ends with Morioka literally taking a step inside the life of someone she cares very deeply about. It's telling that the only other characters we hear about sharing an account are Pokotaro and Himeralda, the married couple. It's a great metaphor for that kind of strong connection. Having Morioka step behind Sakurai's computer screen and briefly see the world of Shellfish Online through Lily's eyes takes the bond that Morioka forms with Lily in the virtual world and makes it physical. It's a representation of the value of the friendships that we make in our lives and how the people that we meet through our passions can have a profound effect on how we see ourselves and how we present ourselves to others. MMO Junkie's use of game mechanics to metaphorically further its narrative purpose is one of the most deft and skillful that I have ever seen in anime, and I honestly can't think of a better means by which the studio could have gone about showing Morioka and Sakurai's connection. Their Ethernet connection! Do you get it? Do you get my joke about the Ethernet connection? So I know that I said a lot of things in this video that might be obvious to some people, but I think that a series deserves to be praised for what it does right, and if those things are done in a way that's intuitively understood, then that's even better. There are still some things that I really wanted to talk about that I couldn't elegantly fit into the script, so if you want to read my notes on MMO Junkie, around 35 pages worth, then head over to Patreon, where you can join these lovely people in allowing me to continue doing what I do. You can also get access to my Patreon gaming streams, a Minecraft server, YouTubing lessons, scrapped scripts, a Discord server, and tons of other stuff. If Patreon isn't your thing, feel free to follow me on Twitter or friend me on Mal, link on my channel page and in the description. Remember to like, subscribe, favorite, share, sacrifice to your old forgotten gods, or whatever it is you do to show appreciation for YouTube videos that you like, and until next time, this has been Explanation Point, signing out.